going on, guys? Welcome back to Pete's Carport. My name's Pete, and today we're going to be working on the w126 420 SEL. So since I've had the car, I've noticed that the ABS light would come on, and periodically I would get a slight shudder in the brakes. But it's gotten a lot worse over the last couple of months. I've been driving the car a little bit more, and so this is the car here. And the car's been heavily shuddering. I'm going to clip in right now. And so you guys can see it's no longer a small issue. The ABS light comes on pretty much right when I start driving it, and anytime I'm coming to a stop, it's giving me a heavy vibration. So what could cause this? So if you're having this issue, and it's not just on the w126, w126 is the car that they introduced the ABS braking system to. So it has something to do with this ABS braking system, which was revolutionary at the time, and any component that's in the brakes can mess up what the ABS system is trying to do. So the ABS is basically miscommunicating somewhere and causing it to pulsate and cause a really bad braking issue. So there's even times when I feel like I'm pressing down on it, my foot goes down and then comes right back up, almost like a spring type motion. And I want to eliminate this. I love driving this car, but this issue makes it very difficult to drive regularly. And so it really started getting bad. I loaned the car to my dad. I was working on his truck, and he brought it up to me, and he was driving it longer distance. So after that, I realized I have to go ahead and fix this. So doing some research, I found out some of the main things that you want to look at are your brake discs, your brake rotors, your brake pads. Make sure those are good. Then you want to check your fluid. Now you want to bleed the system and also get rid of any of the old fluid. This could cause issues in your braking system. So if your fluid's more than 2 or 3 years old, or you don't know how old the fluid is, like in my case, best thing to do is flush the system. And to do that, I actually am going to be using a part that I thought was bad, and I made a video. It's kind of been a good video for me. It has a lot of views. I am going to be updating that video because I did find so many people commented that I did not remove the safety switch, and sure enough, that was exactly what the problem was. I just bled Xavier's SC300, and that worked out phenomenal. So it's a one-person type bleeding system. So we're going to bleed and drain out all the fluid and add fresh fluid in, and then we're going to clean the ABS connectors. And so those are on the front here. So we're going to basically remove the ABS connectors and clean those. I'm going to show you guys how we're going to do that. So let's get set up. I'm going to go ahead and start bleeding the system. I'm going to show you guys how to check your rotors and your pads. And then I'm going to show you guys the next step. And we're going to first bleed the system, test drive it, and then we're going to clean the, and I'll give you guys a fill-in on what worked for me, but you're going to have to basically go in order. I'm going to bleed the system first because I don't know how old this fluid is, and I'd like to get fresh fluid in there no matter what. And then we're going to clean those ABS connectors. And then I already know that I checked these brakes, and they're pretty much new. There's receipts actually I got from the owner that show that they were replaced, so I know that that's not the problem. But let's go ahead. I'm going to get the system bled. I'm going to test drive. I'll come back and tell you guys if I notice a difference, and then we'll go from there and clean those ABS components. So when you're bleeding out the system, you want to get rid of as much of the old fluid up in this reservoir as you can. Typically people use like a turkey baster. I just found out that if I use this pump here, and you can see it'll basically pull the fluid out like it would be pulling it out of the system. So I'm going to go this route, and you can see here I've already started pulling some of the old fluid out. And the way you want to do it is, if you're using like a turkey baster or some other form of method to get out the fluid, don't take out all of it, but you want to get it down pretty low. Then you want to hook up your bleeding system or get set up to bleed, and you want to add fresh fluid. And once you notice that the system has been bled out, whether you're bleeding it with this pump or you're having somebody press the brakes, it's okay to then go from this corner to this corner to this corner to this corner, basically removing the air. And if you don't know how to bleed the system, lots of videos out there. You're going to have somebody in the car pressing the brake down, holding it down while you open up the valve and close the valve, and that will push all the air. Or you can hook up one of these bleeder systems and pump out and then tighten back up the valve. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm not going to show that. I just wanted to fill you guys in that it's really neat. You can go ahead and just use this to pump out a lot of your reservoir so you're able to add fresh fluid in. So quick update, I did the full flush, got really clean fluid throughout there. Let me tell you, the Harbor Freight pump worked phenomenal. And I feel bad that I made that video and bashed it, but I'm definitely going to redo a video and show people that it actually works really, really well. It's a one-person job, and now I've got fresh, clean fluid. I took it for a test spin, and it was stopping way better. Very, very little shatter, but it was still there. And then the ABS light came on, so I knew it didn't solve it completely. But I'm going to basically reference Kent Bergman's videos, Mercedes Resource. That's one of the videos I watched. He goes into detail about these 3 common issues with the ABS problems, the shuddering, and he basically goes over changing out the brake rotors and pads and also your lines. Now you can see I've got brand new brake lines. These are brand new rotors, and my pads are very thick. And I knew that because I got the records from this car, and it was something done within the last 1,000 miles. The brake system was done. So I kind of suspected that the fluid was not either bled, or this car did sit for quite some time, a couple of years, and you know, the fluid could have just gotten old by sitting there. So that was the first thing I wanted to do. So I'm going to reference Kent's video so you can know how to change out and test your brake rotors and your pads. But let's move on to the sensor. So you can actually access the sensor with the wheel on and turning your steering wheel completely, sliding underneath the car on this car, because it's actually a quite high riding car. There's a big gap, but I wanted to show you guys the rotors and talk about that. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn the steering wheel and show you guys how to get to the sensor. It's a 6mm Allen key to take it out. There's one on the differential and one on each one of the fronts here. So I'll show you guys how to do it on this front, and then I'll show you guys the rear differential. We're just going to use brake clean. We're going to clean down the sensor really good, put it back together. We're going to do all of them, and then we're going to take it for another test drive and see if we can get the ABS light to not come on. Okay guys, so I jumped to the other side of the car because I wanted to show you before taking this wheel off how easy you can access that sensor, and that is right there. And you can see the Allen key bolt that holds it in, and I'll step back here so you can see lots of room in this area on these W126 if you've got the stock tires and stock suspension set up. I'm going to jump back to the other side, and we're going to work on it with the tire off and it jacked up. Okay, now on the other side you can see that you can access this here. I already removed the 6mm Allen key bolt, and then I used like a pry tool to get down in here while wiggling it and prying it, and now I've got it to the point where I can pull it out, and you can see, oh my goodness, this is exactly our main issue. So this is magnetic, and you can see it's covered in grease and the brake dust, I guess, because that's probably what it's pulling from there. But these things probably did not get cleaned when they did the whole brake system. They probably just kept them in there, and my guess is they were probably, the owner of the car was probably complaining about the brake shudder. So now what you want to do here is grab yourself a nylon brush, some brake clean, and just spray that down. You also want to get into where the connector goes into and clean that off. Let everything dry down really well. Don't use anything harsh like hard air or anything like that. You could mess up the tip on this. So you want to go and just clean it down with that nylon brush and some brake clean and put it back in. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then we'll move to the other side. I'll do that off camera, and I'll show you guys the rear diff one. Alright guys, take a look at that sensor, just spraying the brake clean on there. And I use a towel to get up in this area here, but you can see, I can actually tell there's a tip there now. And it is magnetic, so if you let it get close to this metal, it'll stick. So let's go ahead now. That's going to actually work a lot better. So I already know that that was probably my main issue. I'm very glad I flushed the brake system. I just wanted to show you guys the difference between what it looked like dirty and how it should look. One last thing is make sure when you're putting that 6mm Allen key bolt back in, you put a little bit of thread locker on there. Use the blue, the medium strength. Let's go ahead. I'm going to show you the rear diff because it's starting to get a little bit dark out. It gets dark so early now. I want to show you can access it pretty easily, at least on my W126, without jacking the car up. So in the rear here, you can slide up under here. And if we look, this is our diff right here. And if we look right back here, hopefully I can focus on it, you're going to see it right there. So it's a little covered in grease, but you got your Allen key bolt there, and there's your sensor right there. Really just look for a wire kind of coming into the back side or the front side of the car. Technically front side of the diff if this is the back side, but closer to this end of it here, you'll see that wire. And you're just going to want to clean that one down too. So I'm going to get that taken care of, get the other side completely done, get her back together, and then fill you guys in. And I know that this is probably the issue, so I'm very excited about it. Alright guys, so good news, it's a success. Drove it down the road, stopping perfect, no shudder at all, and the ABS light is not coming on. Exciting news, because I knew these brakes had been redone. You can tell the parts are newer. Plus, you know, I had history of the owner prior to me. A lot of you guys are not going to have that. You buy these older cars, you don't know what it is. So start by bleeding the system and cleaning the ABS sensors. If you need to change out the rotors and pads, that's not a bad thing. That's a highly suggested thing anyways when these cars get older. But I do want to point out a couple of things. If you didn't catch it in the video, it's a 5mm on this W126, not a 6mm. I figured that out when I switched over to a socket style because I was having issues with the differential one, and then ironically also the driver's side one. Passenger side one came right off. So what I ended up doing was spraying them down with some lubricant, some basically some release lubricant like WD-40. Let it sit on there for a while, grab myself the socket style, and it was a 5mm, not a 6mm that fit, of course, and just wanted to update you guys on that. So yeah, hopefully any of you guys that have this issue, one of these things resolves it. Like I said, I'm going to link Kent's video. He does an awesome job on going through the rotors, all that parts that I did not include. And you give you guys a little bit more reference to go to, so if you get lost on those brake rotors, you can watch that. Lots of videos out there on that as well too, changing out the rotors and pads and also the brake lines. You guys have an awesome day. My name's Pete. This is Pete's Carport. Let's try to keep these Mercedes on the road, and you guys have an awesome day.